She was giving orders, then froze. When I said, "You look amazing today," reaches its climax as the damaged Vanguard's edge faces destruction from both pirate attacks and an encroaching cosmic storm. Commander Arissa hesitates at the critical moment, remembering Kai's disarming compliment, before placing her trust in his unconventional plan to repurpose repair drones as weapons, a moment of vulnerability that ultimately saves the ship and its diplomatic mission. The Vanguard's edge cut through the starscape like a silver blade, its hull gleaming against the backdrop of distant nebulae. As flagship of the Coalition fleet, it carried both the physical and symbolic weight of peace in this troubled sector of space. Commander Arissa Vol stood at the center of the bridge, her posture as rigid as the military protocols she enforced. Holographic displays surrounded her position, bathing her sharp features in a cold blue light as she monitored the ship's systems with unwavering attention. "Status report," she commanded, her voice crisp in the climate-controlled air of the command center. "All systems nominal, Commander," replied the operations officer. "We're maintaining position at the edge of the Peleran sector. Diplomatic convoy is on schedule to rendezvous in approximately 7 hours." Arissa nodded once, the gesture economical and precise. She had earned her reputation through tactical brilliance and an uncompromising adherence to regulation. At 37, she was the youngest fleet commander in Coalition history. Her career, a succession of victories against separatist forces and pirate armadas. The crew respected her, feared her, but few claimed to understand the woman behind the uniform. From his station at the logistics terminal, Lieutenant Kai Mercer observed the commander with quiet interest. Where Arissa was all sharp edges and military precision, Kai approached his duties with a more flexible philosophy. His unorthodox solutions had earned him both commendations and reprimands in equal measure. But his ability to make impossible resource allocations work had ultimately landed him this assignment on the fleet's flagship. "Lieutenant Mercer," Arissa called without looking in his direction. "What's the status of our supply reserves? The diplomatic mission may require extended deployment." Kai's fingers danced across his console. "We're at 93% capacity, Commander. I've implemented the resource conservation protocols you approved last week. We could stay deployed for an additional 17 days, beyond standard mission parameters if necessary." "Good," she replied, the faintest hint of approval in her tone. "The interstellar accord may be holding, but I don't trust the silence from the Meridian colonies." The bridge hummed with activity as officers monitored their stations. The well-oiled machinery of military discipline functioning with clockwork precision. Yet, beneath the surface calm, every crew member felt the weight of their mission. The frontier worlds had been restless, their allegiance to the Coalition wavering as economic pressures mounted. This diplomatic convoy carried representatives who might determine whether peace would hold or whether the outer systems would plunge into open rebellion. "Commander," the communications officer called out, "I'm detecting unusual signal patterns near the hull in Sector 7. It could be interference from the stellar debris field we passed through earlier." Arissa frowned. "Run a diagnostic. Lieutenant Mercer, divert a maintenance team to inspect the area physically. I want confirmation it's just debris." "Yes, Commander." Kai relayed the orders efficiently, though his instincts suggested this was more than simple interference. The Vanguard's edge employed the most sophisticated sensor arrays in the fleet. Stellar debris rarely caused such specific pattern disruptions. His suspicions proved correct minutes later, when the ship's alarms suddenly blared to life. The lighting shifting to emergency protocols, bathing the bridge in pulsing red. "Hull breach detected in Sector 7, the security chief announced. Voice raised above the alarms. "Sealing emergency bulkheads. Pressure dropping in adjacent compartments." Arissa's reaction was immediate. "Deploy emergency response teams. Activate hull integrity fields. I want damage control units." "Commander," Kai interrupted, his voice calm amidst the chaos. "You look amazing today." The bridge fell silent despite the blaring alarms. Arissa's sentence hung incomplete in the air, her mouth slightly open, eyes widened in a moment of pure, unguarded surprise. For a heartbeat, maybe two, the formidable Commander Vole froze, her train of thought completely derailed by the unexpected compliment. The bridge systems seemed to mirror her reaction. Several displays flickered momentarily, as if sharing in her bewilderment. The crew held their collective breath, awaiting the inevitable explosion of disciplinary fury that would surely follow such an inappropriate comment during an emergency. Instead, Arissa blinked once, twice, then resumed as though no interruption had occurred. Damage control to Sector 7. I want a full containment field and repair drones deployed immediately. Lieutenant Mercer, you will explain yourself after this situation is contained. The emergency response proceeded with military efficiency. Repair drones swarmed to the breach site, their specialized tools sealing the damaged section of hull, while engineering teams stabilized the affected systems. Within 20 minutes, the alarms ceased, and the bridge returned to its normal lighting, though the tension remained palpable. "Report!" Arissa demanded, her voice notably cooler than before. "Hull breach contained, Commander," the engineering chief responded. "Preliminary analysis suggests the damage was not consistent with debris impact. The pattern indicates possible sabotage." Arissa's jaw tightened. "Security teams to conduct full sweep of all sections. I want every centimeter of this ship examined." She turned, fixing Kai with a stare that could have cut through the ship's armor plating. "Lieutenant Mercer, my ready room. Now." As they exited the bridge, whispers immediately erupted among the crew. Had Mercer's bizarre comment been a distraction? A code? Was he somehow involved with the breach? The commander's ready room was a stark space that reflected its occupant's personality. Minimal decoration, tactical displays, and a small desk with precisely arranged items. As the door slid closed behind them, Arissa turned to face Kai, her expression unreadable. "Explain yourself, Lieutenant. Your comment was grossly inappropriate during an emergency situation." Kai maintained a respectful posture, but didn't flinch from her gaze. "With respect, Commander, I believe the hull breach was a diversion. At the exact moment the alarms triggered, I detected an unauthorized data transmission from our secure servers. The compliment was an improvised countermeasure." "A countermeasure," she repeated flatly. "Yes, Commander. I needed to create a moment of system instability to track the data packet. Human surprise generates unique electromagnetic patterns in our neural interfaces. Your reaction caused a momentary fluctuation in the bridge systems, enough for me to isolate the transmission signature." Arissa's eyes narrowed. "You deliberately disrupted bridge operations during an emergency to test a theory?" "I disrupted a potential intelligence breach, Commander," Kai corrected gently. "The hull damage was minimal and contained. The data theft could have compromised our entire mission. I've traced the transmission to the communications array on Deck 14. Security teams should find evidence there." For a long moment, Arissa studied him, weighing his explanation against her instincts. Finally, she tapped her comm unit. "Security, this is Commander Vole. Prioritize inspection of the communications array on Deck 14. Report findings directly to me." After closing the channel, she fixed Kai with another penetrating look. "Your methods are unorthodox, Lieutenant." "They're effective," he replied simply. "And if you're wrong?" A small, confident smile touched his lips. "Then I'll accept whatever disciplinary action you deem appropriate, Commander." Arissa moved to her desk, maintaining the physical barrier between them. "Your service record indicates a pattern of creative solutions. It also shows 7 citations for disregarding protocol, and 12 commendations for mission success when protocol would have resulted in failure," Kai added. "You were assigned to my ship because Admiral Tenaris believes your perspective might be valuable in these uncertain times," Arissa said, her tone suggesting she didn't necessarily share the Admiral's opinion. "But I run a disciplined vessel, Lieutenant. There are channels for reporting suspicions. Procedures exist for a reason. With respect, Commander, sometimes the unexpected is necessary, especially when dealing with an enemy who knows our procedures as well as we do." Before Arissa could respond, her comm unit chimed, "Commander, this is Security Chief Voss. We've found evidence of tampering in the communications array on Deck 14. There appears to have been an unauthorized transmission device installed. It's been disabled and removed for analysis." A flash of surprise crossed Arissa's features before she schooled her expression back to professional neutrality. "Very good, Chief. Full report within the hour." After closing the channel, she regarded Kai with new consideration. "It seems your unorthodox approach paid off this time, Lieutenant. But don't mistake this outcome for approval of your methods. Next time, you will follow proper protocols." "Of course, Commander," Kai replied, though they both recognized the insincerity in his agreement. "Dismissed," she said crisply, as the door closed behind him. Arissa remained standing at her desk, her mind replaying the moment on the bridge. "You look amazing today." 5 simple words that had somehow penetrated years of carefully constructed professional barriers. The unexpectedness of it, the genuine tone in which it had been delivered. It had caught her completely off guard. What disturbed her most wasn't the breach of protocol, but her own reaction. For a moment, just a moment, she hadn't been Commander Vole, decorated officer and fleet leader. She had simply been Arissa, a woman receiving an unexpected compliment. The sensation had been disorienting. She pushed the thought aside. There was a mission to complete, a possible security breach to investigate, and a diplomatic convoy to protect. Personal feelings had no place in any of it. Meanwhile, on Deck 14, Kai personally examined the removed transmission device, his expression thoughtful. The technology was sophisticated, coalition design but with modifications that suggested inside knowledge. Someone on the Vanguard's edge was feeding information to outside forces. The question was, who, and to what end? As he cataloged the components, his mind drifted briefly to the commander's reaction on the bridge. The momentary crack in her impenetrable armor had revealed something unexpected, a glimpse of the woman behind the uniform. It had been both professionally useful and personally intriguing. Over the next 12 hours, rumors spread throughout the ship like wildfire. The hull breach, Kai's strange comment, the commander's momentary lapse, the discovery of spy technology, each fact distorted with each retelling. By the time the diplomatic convoy appeared on long-range sensors, half the crew believed Lieutenant Mercer was either a saboteur who had orchestrated the hull breach as cover for his transmission, or a counterintelligence agent planted to root out spies within the ranks. Arissa ordered a full internal investigation, assigning security teams to review all personnel movements and communications for the past month. Kai found himself under particular scrutiny, though his security clearance remained intact, a fact that only fueled further speculation about his true role aboard the ship. For his part, Kai focused on his duties, implementing resource allocation protocols to accommodate the incoming diplomatic delegation while simultaneously tracing the origins of the transmission device. His investigation led him through the ship's maintenance tunnels, where he discovered the communication relays had been subtly reconfigured to allow for data extraction. As he worked to repair the compromised systems, he encountered Arissa inspecting the area personally. "Lieutenant," she acknowledged, her tone neutral. "Engineering reports you've been spending considerable time in the maintenance sections. Care to explain?" Kai gestured to the open panel before him. "The transmission device was sophisticated. Commander, I believe it was part of a larger network. These relays show signs of tampering. Someone has been skimming data for weeks, possibly months. Arisa moved closer, examining his work. You have expertise in communication systems? I have expertise in resource allocation, he corrected. Data is just another resource. When it flows in unexpected patterns, I notice. She studied him for a long moment. The security investigation hasn't uncovered any evidence linking you to the breach. I would hope not, Kai replied with a hint of humor. Considering I'm the one who exposed it. Nevertheless, your actions were unorthodox. As you've mentioned, a flicker of irritation crossed her features. You seem unconcerned about potential disciplinary consequences. Lieutenant, I'm more concerned about who's leaking sensitive information and why, Kai said, returning his attention to the relay panel. Especially with a diplomatic convoy approaching. The timing feels deliberate. Arisa's expression shifted subtly, a new consideration entering her eyes. You believe the delegation is the target? Or the opportunity, Kai suggested. A high-profile diplomatic mission, multiple political factions represented, all aboard the coalition's flagship. It's an intelligence goldmine. The commander was silent for a moment, processing this perspective. Continue your investigation, Lieutenant. Report directly to me with any findings. Yes, Commander. As she turned to leave, Kai added, The next maintenance junction is in Section 23. The access is restricted to command-level authorization. Arisa paused. Are you requesting permission to access a restricted area, Lieutenant? I'm suggesting we might both be interested in what we find there, Commander. Their eyes met in a moment of unspoken communication, an alliance born of necessity and mutual curiosity. Without further comment, Arisa gestured for him to follow. Together, they made their way through the increasingly narrow maintenance corridors of the massive vessel, eventually reaching the restricted junction that connected the ship's primary and secondary command systems. With her override code, Arisa opened the sealed hatch, revealing a cramped space filled with critical system nodes. This junction processes all command-level communications, she explained as they entered. Only senior officers and specifically authorized maintenance personnel have access. Kai immediately began examining the connections, his fingers moving with practiced precision. Someone's installed a buffer node here, he said after several minutes. It's recording all command transmissions before passing them through. Can you determine how long it's been in place? Based on the integration with the surrounding systems. At least 3 months. He looked up at her. That predates your assumption of command. Arisa's expression hardened. Remove it. I want it analyzed immediately. As Kai carefully extracted the device, a subtle vibration ran through the ship, so faint that most crew members wouldn't notice it. But both officers immediately recognized the telltale sign of the vessel's defensive shields activating. Their comm units chimed simultaneously. Commander Vol to the bridge immediately. Unidentified vessels approaching the diplomatic convoy. Arisa was already moving toward the exit. Bring that device, she ordered Kai. We'll continue this investigation after addressing the current situation. The bridge was at full alert when they arrived. Tactical displays showing a cluster of small vessels approaching from the shadow of a nearby asteroid field. Report, Arisa commanded, immediately taking her position at the center of operations. 6 vessels, Commander. The tactical officer responded. Corvette class, running without identification transponders. They emerged from the asteroid field 3 minutes ago and are on an intercept course with the diplomatic convoy. Hail them, Arisa ordered. We've tried, Commander. No response on any frequency. Kai moved to his logistics station, the buffer device secured in a containment case. As he monitored the resource allocations for combat readiness, he analyzed the approaching vessels through his own display. Their engine signatures are consistent with modified mining ships, he noted. Civilian craft with military-grade weapons retrofits. Pirates, Arisa concluded. Tactical. Bring all weapon systems online. Communications. Warn the diplomatic convoy to alter course and increase speed. We'll intercept these vessels before they reach our protectees. The Vanguard's Edge surged forward, its massive engines propelling the warship toward the smaller vessels. The pirates, realizing they faced the coalition flagship, immediately scattered, breaking their formation and taking evasive maneuvers. "They're not retreating," the tactical officer noted with surprise. "They're repositioning." Arisa's eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical display. This isn't a random pirate attack. These are coordinated military maneuvers. As if confirming her assessment, the scattered vessels suddenly executed a synchronized turn, revealing previously concealed weapon ports. Energy signatures spiked across the sensors as they powered up their armaments. "Evasive maneuvers," Arisa commanded. "All hands, brace for impact." The first volley struck the Vanguard's shields with surprising force, causing the massive warship to shudder. Bridge displays flickered momentarily as power rerouted to reinforce the defensive systems. "Shields holding at 87%, reported engineering. "But those weren't standard weapons, Commander. They're using shield harmonic disruptors." "Military-grade technology," Arisa muttered. "Return fire. Target their propulsion systems. I want prisoners for questioning." The Vanguard's main batteries responded, lances of focused energy reaching out toward the smaller vessels. 2 direct hits sent pirates spinning off course, their engines disabled. "Commander," called the sensor officer, "I'm detecting a gravitational anomaly at the edge of the system. It's expanding rapidly." Arisa turned toward the main view screen as it shifted to show the distant phenomenon, a swirling distortion in the fabric of space that grew more pronounced by the second. "That's a Class 3 cosmic storm," she realized, her voice tight with concern. "All vessels. This is Commander Vole of the Coalition flagship Vanguard's Edge. The system is experiencing a cosmic storm event. Cease hostilities immediately and prepare for emergency maneuvers." The pirates either didn't receive the warning or chose to ignore it. They continued their assault, their formation tightening as they executed another coordinated attack run. "They're not stopping," the tactical officer confirmed. "And neither is that storm," Kai added, his display showing the rapidly advancing gravitational disturbance. "At current expansion rate, it will engulf this entire sector in approximately 17 minutes. Arisa's mind raced through the tactical options. The diplomatic convoy was still 8 minutes from reaching their position. The pirates showed no signs of retreating. And now, a cosmic storm, one of space's most unpredictable and dangerous phenomena, threatened to trap them all in its gravitational maelstrom. "Lieutenant Mercer," she called, "what's the status of our emergency thrusters?" "Fully operational, Commander, but they won't provide enough power to escape the storm's pull if we wait too long." "And the convoy?" Kai checked his calculations. "Their vessels aren't equipped with sufficient thruster capacity. They'll need an escort to reach safe distance." Another volley from the pirate vessels struck the Vanguard's shields, the impact more significant this time. "Shields at 73%, engineering reported. Those disruptors are matching our shield harmonics with each hit. They're learning our defensive patterns." Arisa made her decision. "We protect the convoy, set intercept course, and prepare for emergency escort procedures. Tactical. Continue targeting pirate propulsion systems." The Vanguard's Edge turned gracefully despite its size, placing itself between the approaching pirates and the still distant diplomatic vessels. Its weapons fired continuously, forcing the attackers to break their formation to avoid the barrage. "Commander," Kai called, his attention fixed on his display. "I'm detecting additional energy signatures from the asteroid field. More vessels are powering up." The tactical display confirmed his observation. At least 15 more ships were emerging from hiding, their signatures matching those of the initial attackers. "It's an ambush," Arisa realized. "They lured us into position with the initial attack force." As the reinforcements approached, the cosmic storm continued its inexorable expansion, its gravitational effects already causing minor disturbances in the ship's navigational systems. "Time to storm engulfment," Arisa demanded. 14 minutes, Commander, responded the science officer. But we're already feeling its effects. Navigation is becoming increasingly difficult. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Vanguard's Edge could handle the pirate vessels under normal circumstances, but divided between combat operations and escort duty. While navigating the growing effects of a cosmic storm, the odds were shifting unfavorably. "New contacts approaching from Vector 7, announced the sensor officer, his voice tight with tension. "Large vessels, at least cruiser class." Arisa's heart sank. If the pirates had cruiser-class ships in reserve, the Vanguard's Edge might be outmatched even without the complication of the storm. But Kai's voice cut through the moment of despair. "Commander, those are coalition signatures. It's the 7th Patrol Fleet. They must have been conducting exercises in the adjacent sector." Relief washed through the bridge, though Arisa's expression remained impassive. "Open a channel to the 7th Fleet command vessel." The communications officer worked his console. "Channel open, Commander." "This is Commander Vole of the Vanguard's Edge to 7th Fleet Command. We are engaged with hostile forces while attempting to escort a diplomatic convoy. Be advised, the sector is experiencing a Class 3 cosmic storm event with imminent engulfment." The response came immediately. "Vanguard's Edge, this is Captain Alara of the Sentinel. We have visual on your situation. Moving to assist with convoy escort. Recommend you focus on neutralizing hostile forces while we secure the diplomats." "Acknowledged, Captain. We'll handle the pirates." With the arrival of reinforcements, the tactical situation shifted dramatically. The 7th Fleet vessels moved to intercept the diplomatic convoy, their superior engines allowing them to reach the vulnerable ships quickly. Freed from escort duty, the Vanguard's Edge turned its full attention to the pirate forces. Its weapons batteries unleashed a coordinated barrage that caught several of the smaller vessels, disabling their propulsion systems and leaving them adrift. The remaining pirates, realizing their ambush had failed, began to retreat toward the asteroid field. But the cosmic storm's expanding influence was making navigation increasingly treacherous. 2 pirate vessels, attempting evasive maneuvers, collided as their control systems failed under the gravitational distortions. "Storm effects intensifying," reported the science officer. "Estimated time to sector engulfment, now 11 minutes. "The 7th Fleet has reached the convoy," Tactical confirmed. "They're assuming escort formation and preparing for emergency thrust to clear the storm's projected path." Arisa nodded. "Maintain pursuit of the hostile vessels. I want as many captured as possible." The Vanguard's Edge pushed forward, its powerful engines fighting against the growing gravitational interference. 3 more pirate ships fell to its weapons, their systems disabled by precision strikes. But as they closed on the remaining vessels, a massive energy surge erupted from the largest pirate ship. The concentrated beam struck the Vanguard's Edge directly, bypassing its forward shields through some unknown technology. The impact rocked the flagship violently, throwing crew members from their stations as emergency systems blared warnings. "Direct hit to the forward hull," engineering shouted over the alarms. "Sections 3 through 7 experiencing explosive decompression. Emergency bulkheads activating, but structural integrity is compromised." "Weapons," Arisa demanded, gripping her command station to maintain balance as the ship shuddered. "Primary weapons array offline," Tactical reported grimly. "We have secondary batteries only." Another impact struck the vessel before the secondary shields could compensate, further damaging the already compromised hull. "Commander," the science officer called urgently. "The storm's gravitational effects are accelerating our clock. New estimate for sector engulfment is 7 minutes. Arisa surveyed the chaos on her bridge. Damaged systems, wounded personnel, and a critically injured ship facing both enemy fire and an approaching cosmic catastrophe. The 7th Fleet was fully engaged in evacuating the diplomatic convoy and couldn't offer assistance. The Vanguard's Edge stood alone against the remaining pirate vessels, its primary defenses crippled. "Divert all available power to engines," she ordered, We need to clear the storm's path. Commander, engineering responded. Hull integrity is critically compromised in the forward sections. Maximum thrust could tear the damaged sections apart completely. Kai's voice cut through the chaos. Commander, I have a suggestion. Orisa turned to find him already moving toward her position, his display tablet in hand. We have breach sealing drones in Maintenance Bay 12. They're equipped with molecular bonding technology for emergency hull repairs. We're aware, Lieutenant. They're already deployed to the damaged sections. Yes, but they can be repurposed, Kai continued, showing her the schematics on his tablet. Their bonding mechanisms can be reconfigured to function as point defense turrets. If we deploy them along the damaged hull sections, we can create a makeshift defense grid. Orisa stared at him, then at the schematics. You want to turn repair drones into weapons? I want to use what we have available to survive, Kai corrected. The drones already have precision targeting systems for identifying hull breaches. With minor reprogramming, they can target incoming ordnance instead. It won't replace our main weapons, but it might give us enough defensive capability to escape. Engineering joined the discussion. It could work, Commander. The drone targeting systems would need recalibration, but their bonding mechanisms could theoretically intercept and neutralize incoming projectiles. How quickly can this be implemented? Orisa asked. The reprogramming would take minutes, Kai replied. The drones are already in position around the damaged hull sections. Another impact struck the ship. Less severe than the previous hits, but enough to remind everyone of their precarious situation. Storm engulfment in 6 minutes, Science updated grimly. Orisa looked at Kai, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared intensity. The unconventional plan was risky, dependent on technology being used far outside its intended purpose. But the alternatives were limited, and time was running short. In that moment, his words from earlier echoed in her mind. You look amazing today. 5 simple words that had penetrated her defenses completely. Now, he was offering another unexpected solution, asking her to trust his unorthodox thinking once more. She froze momentarily, caught between military doctrine and the desperate need for innovation. The bridge crew held their breath, awaiting her decision as the ship trembled around them. Do it, she finally commanded. Implement Lieutenant Mercer's plan immediately. The order galvanized the crew into action. Engineering teams began the drone reprogramming process, while tactical prepared to coordinate their deployment as defensive weapons. Remaining hostile vessels are continuing their approach. Tactical reported. Estimated time to weapons range is 3 minutes. Storm engulfment in 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Added Science. Kai worked feverishly at his station, directing the reprogramming efforts while monitoring the drone's positions around the damaged hull. Recalibration at 60%, he announced. First wave of drones will be combat-ready in 90 seconds. The minutes stretched agonizingly as the crew raced against multiple countdown clocks. The approaching enemy vessels, the expanding cosmic storm, and their own diminishing chances of survival. First wave of drones reprogrammed and active, Kai finally reported. Defensive grid at 25% capacity. The pirates are entering weapons range, Tactical warned. And the storm's gravitational effects are increasing exponentially, added Science. Navigation systems are starting to fail. As if on cue, the remaining pirate vessels launched another coordinated attack, multiple energy beams converging on the Vanguard's edge's vulnerable sections. Brace for impact, Orisa called. But instead of the expected devastating hits, the view screen showed dozens of small, bright flashes as the repurposed repair drones intercepted the incoming fire. Their molecular bonding mechanisms latched onto the energy projectiles, disrupting their cohesion and dispersing their destructive force before they could reach the hull. Defensive grid functioning at 28% efficiency, Kai reported, unable to keep a note of satisfaction from his voice. Second wave of drones coming online now. The pirate vessels, confused by the unexpected defense, adjusted their attack pattern, and fired again. Once more, the improvised drone network intercepted the majority of the incoming ordnance, though several impacts still struck the ship's secondary shields. Shields holding at 42%. Engineering reported. The drone defense is working. Defensive grid now at 53% capacity. Kai updated. Final wave of drones coming online. Arisa allowed herself the briefest moment of hope before refocusing on their escape. Helm. Plot a course out of the storm's projected path. Engineering. Prepare for emergency thrust on my mark. The helm officer worked his controls frantically. Navigation systems are heavily compromised by gravitational interference. Commander, I can't establish a reliable course. Storm engulfment in 4 minutes, Science warned. Kai moved to the navigation console. The storm's gravitational signature follows predictable expansion patterns despite the interference. If we calibrate our sensors to focus on the harmonic resonance of the event horizon, working with the helm officer, he quickly implemented a modified navigation protocol that filtered out the worst of the gravitational distortions, revealing a narrow potential escape vector. There, he pointed to the display. That corridor will remain stable for approximately 3 minutes before the storm's expansion overtakes it. Arisa nodded. Helm, set course. Engineering. Divert all available power to engines excluding the drone defense grid. The Vanguard's edge began to turn, its damaged hull groaning under the strain of maneuvering in the storm's growing influence. The pirate vessels, recognizing the flagship's intention to escape, intensified their attack, concentrating fire on the engines. Defensive grid at 78% capacity, Kai reported, as the drones continued to intercept incoming fire. It's holding. Engineering, status of hull integrity for maximum thrust? The molecular bonding from the active drones is actually reinforcing the damaged sections. Commander, we should be able to sustain maximum thrust for the duration needed to escape the storm's path. Execute emergency thrust on my mark, Arisa ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The massive engines of the Vanguard's edge flared to life with renewed power, pushing the wounded vessel forward along the narrow escape corridor. The ship shuddered violently as gravitational forces pulled at its structure, but the reinforced hull held together. On the tactical display, they could see the pirate vessels hesitating, caught between continuing their attack and saving themselves from the approaching storm. Several broke off pursuit, turning to follow their own escape vectors away from the expanding catastrophe. Storm engulfment in 3 minutes. Science updated. We'll clear the projected path in 2 minutes, 40 seconds at current speed. It's going to be close, Kai murmured, his eyes fixed on the calculations. The remaining pirate vessels made their decision, abandoning their attack to flee the approaching storm. But as they turned, the gravitational distortions affected their smaller vessels more severely, sending two spinning out of control directly into the storm's outer boundary. They disappeared in flashes of energy as the cosmic forces tore them apart. Storm effects increasing, Helm reported, fighting with the controls. Maintaining course is becoming difficult. Divert power from life support to engines if necessary, Arisa commanded. Everything non-essential goes to propulsion and the defensive grid. The Vanguard's edge surged forward, pushing against the invisible forces that threatened to drag it into destruction. The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, making constant adjustments to compensate for the increasing gravitational interference. 2 minutes to clearing the storm path, Helm announced, voice strained with concentration. Storm engulfment in 2 minutes, 30 seconds, countered Science. Arisa's hands gripped her command station until her knuckles whitened. Engineering. Can we squeeze any more power to the engines? We're already beyond recommended safety parameters. Commander, the structural integrity field is at maximum capacity. Another violent shudder ran through the ship as a particularly strong gravitational wave struck them. Warning lights flashed across multiple consoles. Hull breach in Section 9, Engineering called out. The strain is exceeding the reinforcement capacity. Divert some of the defensive drones to the new breach, Orissa ordered immediately. Kai was already implementing the command, his fingers dancing across his console. Rerouting defensive units now. Coverage will drop to 62%, but hull integrity should stabilize. The seconds ticked by with excruciating slowness as the massive vessel fought against the cosmic forces, threatening to consume it. Every crew member could feel the storm's pull intensifying, the ship groaning around them as its structural integrity was tested to its limits. 1 minute to clearing the storm path, Helm reported, sweat beading on his forehead as he fought with the increasingly erratic controls. Storm engulfment in 1 minute. 45 seconds. Science updated. The anxiety clear in his voice despite his professional demeanor. Orissa made a quick calculation. We need more speed. Engineering. Disable all remaining non-critical systems. Life support can operate at minimum levels for the duration needed. Commander, Kai interjected. There's another option. The drone's molecular bonding technology creates a reinforced field around the hull. If we reconfigure that field to extend behind the ship, it could act as a repulsion buffer against the gravitational waves, creating a slipstream effect. Engineering realized, catching onto the concept. It might give us the additional velocity we need. Do it, Orissa commanded without hesitation. Kai immediately began reprogramming the drone network, reconfiguring their bonding fields to create the proposed buffer effect. As the changes took effect, the ship's shuddering noticeably decreased, the gravitational forces partially deflected by the improvised technology. It's working, Helm confirmed, his controls steadying. Our effective speed has increased by 12%. Time to clearing the storm path? 45 seconds, Commander. Storm engulfment? 1 minute, 30 seconds. We're gaining ground. The bridge crew held their collective breath as the Vanguard's edge pushed forward, the gap between escape and destruction slowly widening in their favor. On the view screen, they could see the visible distortion of space that marked the storm's boundary, an impossible swirl of cosmic forces that devoured light itself. 30 seconds to clearing the storm path, Helm announced, his voice steadier now. Storm holding at 1 minute, 20 seconds to engulfment. The ship gave a final violent lurch as it pushed through the last gravitational eddy. Then suddenly, the vibrations ceased. The view screen showed clear space ahead, the storm's influence diminishing rapidly as they reached the calculated safe zone. We've cleared the storm's projected path, Helm confirmed, relief evident in his voice. Gravitational interference dropping to manageable levels. A collective exhale seemed to pass through the bridge crew. Several officers exchanged glances of disbelief and burgeoning hope. Maintain current course and speed until we reach minimum safe distance, Orissa ordered, her voice steady despite the emotion she felt. Status of the diplomatic convoy? The 7th Fleet reports all diplomatic vessels successfully evacuated from the storm's path. Communications relayed. They're regrouping at the designated safe coordinates. And the remaining hostile vessels? 3 escaped along with us, Tactical reported. The others. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The cosmic storm had claimed them. Orissa nodded once, processing the information. Stand down from emergency protocols. Begin damage assessment and casualty reports. Lieutenant Mercer, well done with the drone reconfiguration. Your unconventional approach saved this ship and her crew. Kai inclined his head in acknowledgement, a small smile touching his lips. Thank you, Commander. As the immediate crisis passed, the bridge settled into the organized activity of a vessel in recovery. Damage control teams reported from throughout the ship. Medical personnel attended to the injured, and engineering began the process of restoring systems to normal operation. Orissa remained at her command station, monitoring the various reports as they came in. The Vanguard's edge had survived, though not without significant damage. Repairs would take weeks, possibly months for the most severely affected sections. But the ship was intact, the majority of her crew alive, and the diplomatic mission preserved. Commander, Kai approached her station, tablet in hand. "I've compiled a preliminary analysis of the pirate attack. Their technology and tactics suggest something more organized than typical frontier raiders." Orissa took the tablet, reviewing his findings with interest. "These weapon signatures, they're similar to coalition prototypes." "Yes," Kai confirmed. "And their coordination during the attack displayed military precision. I believe we were targeted by a well-funded, well-trained force disguised as pirates." "Connected to our spy aboard the Vanguard?" "Almost certainly. The timing is too perfect to be coincidence." Orissa handed the tablet back to him. "Continue your investigation, Lieutenant. I want to know who's behind this and why they targeted us specifically." "Yes, Commander." He hesitated briefly before adding, "The buffer device we recovered from the command junction might provide additional insights. With your permission, I'd like to analyze it more thoroughly." "Granted. Use whatever resources you need." She paused, then added with the faintest hint of a smile, "Your unconventional methods seem to yield results." As Kai returned to his duties, Orissa found herself reflecting on the events of the past hours. The hull breach, the spy technology, the pirate ambush, the cosmic storm, and through it all, the unexpected effectiveness of Lieutenant Mercer's unorthodox solutions. "You look amazing today." The words still echoed in her mind, a simple phrase that had somehow created a momentary connection between them, a connection that had ultimately contributed to saving the ship when she trusted his judgment during the crisis. The diplomatic convoy reached the rendezvous coordinates several hours later, joining the Vanguard's Edge and the vessels of the 7th Fleet in the safety of clear space, far from the cosmic storm's expanding influence. Despite the damage to the flagship, Orissa insisted on proceeding with the scheduled diplomatic meetings. The delegates needed to see the coalition's strength and resolve, especially after surviving such a coordinated attack. The delegates, representatives from several frontier worlds considering secession from the coalition, were visibly shaken by their near destruction. Being targeted by what appeared to be pirates had reinforced the dangers of operating without coalition protection, while the Vanguard's Edge's heroic defense had demonstrated the benefits of continued alliance. "The attack was deliberate," Orissa explained to the assembled diplomats in the flagship's conference room. "Someone wanted to prevent these negotiations from taking place." "You're suggesting one of our worlds ordered this?" asked Ambassador Torin from the Meridian colonies, his expression indignant. "I'm suggesting that forces opposed to peaceful resolution of our differences attempted to eliminate the possibility of dialogue." Orissa clarified diplomatically, "The investigation is ongoing, but preliminary evidence indicates a well-organized military operation disguised as a pirate attack." The delegates exchanged troubled glances. Ambassador Elisa from the Perimeter Worlds spoke up. "Commander, your ship and crew risked everything to protect our convoy. Whatever political differences exist between our worlds and the coalition, we recognize and appreciate this sacrifice." Murmurs of agreement spread through the assembly. "The coalition remains committed to peaceful cooperation with all member worlds," Orissa responded. "Your security and prosperity are our priority." The meeting continued with discussions of economic concerns, resource allocation, and governance issues, the very topics that had led several frontier worlds to consider secession. With the shared experience of survival fresh in everyone's minds, the tone was notably more cooperative than in previous negotiations. Kai, present as part of the command staff, observed the proceedings with interest. The attack had inadvertently created an opportunity for genuine dialogue. Fear was a powerful motivator, but so was gratitude. The delegates had witnessed the Vanguard's Edge placing itself in danger to protect them, and that demonstration of coalition values spoke louder than any diplomatic rhetoric. When the formal session concluded, Kai approached Orissa as she reviewed notes from the meeting. The delegates seemed more receptive than intelligence reports suggested they would be. "Shared danger creates bonds," she replied. though I would have preferred a less destructive method of improving diplomatic relations. Sometimes the most effective solutions aren't found in the protocol manuals, Kai observed. Arissa looked up at him, a hint of amusement in her eyes. Is that your philosophy for everything, Lieutenant? Not everything, he conceded. Just the important things. Their conversation was interrupted by a signal from Arissa's comm unit. Commander, this is Security Chief Voss. We've completed analysis of the buffer device recovered from the command junction. You'll want to see this immediately. On my way, she responded, then glanced at Kai. Join me, Lieutenant. Your insights may be valuable. In the security office, Chief Voss presented their findings with a grim expression. The device was recording all command-level communications and transmitting them to an external receiver. But it wasn't just collecting data. It was inserting subtle alterations into outgoing communications. Alterations? Arissa's brow furrowed. What kind of alterations? Minor changes to coordinates, resource allocations, personnel assignments. Nothing dramatic enough to trigger verification protocols, but sufficient to create strategic vulnerabilities over time. Voss brought up a comparative display, showing original and altered communications. Someone was setting us up for failure, Commander. Can you trace the external receiver? Kai asked. Not directly. The transmission path was bounced through multiple relays. Voss hesitated. However, we did find something unusual in the device's construction. It contains components manufactured exclusively for Coalition intelligence services. Arissa's expression darkened. You're saying this is an inside job. Someone within the Coalition is deliberately undermining our operations. The evidence suggests that possibility, yes. Could this be connected to the pirate attack? Kai asked, though he already suspected the answer. Almost certainly, Voss confirmed. The attackers knew our shield harmonics, our response protocols, even the optimal angle of approach to exploit our sensor blind spots. They had inside information, the kind this device would have provided. Arissa paced the small office, her mind working through the implications. So we have a traitor within the Coalition, possibly within Coalition intelligence itself, who wants to sabotage peace negotiations with the frontier worlds. But why? Kai wondered aloud. Who benefits from continued instability? That, Arissa said grimly, is what we need to discover. Over the next 48 hours, as repairs continued on the Vanguard's edge, and diplomatic discussions progressed with surprising positivity, Kai and the security team worked to unravel the mystery of the espionage network. The buffer device yielded additional clues when disassembled, including a manufacturing signature that traced back to a facility on Proxima Station, a Coalition outpost known for its specialized military research. When Kai brought this information to Arissa in her ready room, she was reviewing the latest diplomatic agreements, concessions from both the Coalition and frontier representatives that seemed to be paving the way for renewed cooperation. Proxima Station, she mused after hearing his report. That facility is under the direct control of Admiral Venturi. The same Admiral Venturi who opposed your appointment to command the Vanguard's edge. Kai noted. Arissa's eyes narrowed slightly. That's hardly evidence of treason, Lieutenant. No, but it's a connection worth investigating, especially considering this. He handed her a datapad containing his latest findings. I've been analyzing the communications altered by the buffer device. There's a pattern to the changes. They specifically undermined operations you directly commanded, while leaving other officers' assignments untouched. Someone trying to make me appear incompetent, Arissa suggested, reviewing the data. Or trying to ensure you weren't in position to interfere with whatever they're planning, Kai countered. Your reputation for thoroughness and attention to detail would make you particularly dangerous to any covert operation. The commander was silent for a moment, considering the implications. We need more evidence before making accusations against a Coalition admiral. Agreed, which is why I have a proposal. Kai outlined his plan. a carefully crafted false communication that would appear to come from Orissa, containing deliberately incorrect information about the diplomatic convoy's next movements. If we monitor who accesses this information and track any external transmissions related to it, we create a trap for our spy, Orissa finished, nodding slowly. Risky, but potentially effective. The risk can be minimized by including only non-critical misinformation, nothing that would endanger lives if acted upon. Orissa studied him for a long moment. Your methods continue to be unorthodox, Lieutenant. But effective, he reminded her with the hint of a smile. Implement your plan, she decided. But keep me informed of every development. If we're dealing with traitors at the admiral level, we need to proceed with extreme caution. The trap was set that same day. A seemingly routine update on the diplomatic convoy's schedule that included a fabricated change of course for their next destination. Access to the communication was restricted to command-level personnel, with hidden tracking protocols embedded in the data to monitor who viewed it and where it went afterward. Within hours, the bait was taken. Someone using Commander Ishida's access codes, the Vanguard's Edge's second officer, viewed the communication and transmitted an encrypted message to an external receiver. Security immediately traced the transmission and located its origin point in the officer's quarters. Commander Ishida? Orissa was genuinely surprised when Voss reported the findings. He's served with distinction for 15 years. The transmission definitely came from his personal console, Voss confirmed. And the encryption matches the pattern used by the buffer device. Have him brought to the brig immediately, discreetly. The security team apprehended Ishida without incident, but the situation took an unexpected turn during his interrogation. The commander appeared genuinely confused by the accusations, insisting he had been in the ship's gymnasium at the time the transmission was sent from his quarters. The gym records confirm his presence, Kai reported after checking the logs. He couldn't have physically been at his console when the transmission was sent. Someone used his access codes without his knowledge, Orissa concluded. But that would require direct access to his personal identification chip, Kai finished, which should be impossible without his biometric verification. Further investigation revealed a sophisticated hack of the ship's identification protocols, one that allowed the spy to clone Commander Ishida's access credentials without triggering security alerts. The true culprit remained hidden, but they were getting closer. The diplomatic negotiations concluded successfully the following day, with all frontier representatives agreeing to renewed cooperation with the coalition under revised terms that addressed their primary concerns. The near disaster of the pirate attack and cosmic storm had created a foundation for genuine dialogue that might otherwise have taken years to establish. As the delegates prepared to depart on their return journey, now with a full escort from the 7th Fleet, Orissa and Kai attended the formal farewell ceremony in the Vanguard's Edge's main reception hall. A successful outcome, despite everything, Kai observed as they watched the diplomats mingling with coalition officers. Perhaps because of everything, Orissa suggested. Sometimes, shared adversity reveals what's truly important. A philosophy worthy of consideration in multiple contexts, Kai replied, his eyes meeting hers briefly. Their conversation was interrupted by the approach of Ambassador Elisa from the perimeter worlds. Commander Vole, Lieutenant Mercer, I wanted to personally express my gratitude for your actions during the attack. Your courage and quick thinking saved many lives. We were simply doing our duty, Ambassador, Orissa responded diplomatically. Perhaps, but duty alone doesn't inspire the kind of loyalty I've observed among your crew. The ambassador glanced between them with perceptive eyes. Whatever challenges lie ahead, I believe the coalition is fortunate to have officers of your caliber. After the ambassador moved on, Kai noticed a subtle change in Orissa's expression, a momentary softening of her usually implacable features. Ambassador Elisa is known for her insight into character, he commented. She built her political career on an almost uncanny ability to read people Is that a roundabout way of saying you agree with her assessment, Lieutenant? Orissa asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. I've served under many commanding officers. Commander, few inspire the level of dedication your crew demonstrates. Before Orissa could respond, her comm unit signaled an urgent message. Commander, this is Chief Voss. We've detected an unauthorized transmission from the diplomatic reception. Someone is sending real-time information about the proceedings to an external receiver. Orissa's expression immediately shifted back to professional alertness. Can you pinpoint the source? It's coming from within the reception hall, but we can't isolate the specific individual. The signal is being bounced through multiple personal devices. Implement Security Protocol 7, Orissa ordered. Full communications blackout for the reception area. No signals in or out. Acknowledged, Commander. Initiating now. As the order took effect, Kai noticed several guests checking their communication devices with confusion as the network suddenly went offline. Most assumed it was a temporary technical issue. But one individual, a junior attaché from the Meridian delegation, showed a different reaction. His expression flickered with something closer to alarm than mere annoyance. Kai subtly indicated the man to Orissa with a slight nod. The attaché in the blue uniform? His reaction seems disproportionate. Orissa observed the indicated individual, noting his increasingly nervous behavior as he repeatedly tried to access his communication device. Inform security discreetly. Have them prepared to intervene, but no action yet. We need to be certain. The reception continued without apparent disruption, though the communications blackout caused some grumbling among the guests. The suspicious attaché grew visibly more anxious, eventually separating himself from the main gathering and moving toward one of the side exits. He's making a move, Kai murmured. Security is tracking him, Orissa confirmed, a hand to her concealed comm unit. They'll intercept once he's away from the diplomatic gathering to avoid creating an incident. But the attaché seemed to sense the trap closing around him. Instead of continuing to the exit, he suddenly changed direction, moving purposefully toward Ambassador Torn from the Meridian colonies. Before anyone could react, he had drawn a concealed weapon and grabbed the ambassador, using him as a shield. "Nobody move!" he shouted, pressing the weapon against the ambassador's head. "I will kill him!" The reception hall froze in shocked silence. Security personnel positioned around the perimeter drew their weapons, but couldn't risk firing with the ambassador in danger. "Lower your weapons or he dies!" the attaché demanded, his voice strained with desperation. Orissa stepped forward, her hands visible and empty. "Let's remain calm. Whatever your grievances, harming the ambassador won't help your cause." "Stay back," he warned, tightening his grip on the frightened diplomat. "I know who you are, Commander Vole, the Coalition's perfect officer, always following orders without question." "You seem to have me at a disadvantage," Orissa replied evenly. "You know my name, but I don't know yours, or what you hope to accomplish here. My name doesn't matter. What matters is stopping this farce of a peace agreement before it destroys everything we've worked for." Kai had been slowly, imperceptibly, moving to flank the hostage-taker, using the crowd and furniture as cover. He caught Orissa's eye briefly, indicating his position with the slightest tilt of his head. "Who is we?" Orissa asked, maintaining the man's attention. "Who are you working for?" The attaché gave a bitter laugh. "You think this is about some external enemy? The greatest threat to the Coalition comes from within, from those who would weaken us with compromise and appeasement. Your Coalition intelligence," Orissa realized, the pieces suddenly falling into place. "Part of Admiral Venturi's faction. The Admiral understands what's at stake. A strong coalition cannot tolerate dissent or negotiation with potential enemies. These frontier worlds need to be controlled, not coddled." As he spoke, Kai had maneuvered into position behind a pillar just meters from the hostage situation. Orissa needed to keep the man talking just a little longer. "And the pirate attack? The sabotage aboard my ship? Those were part of your operation to prevent the peace talks? Necessary sacrifices for the greater good, the attaché replied coldly. The coalition must remain strong, united under central authority. These diplomatic missions undermine everything we've built. What you've built is a lie, Orissa countered. The coalition exists to protect and serve its member worlds, not to control them through fear and manipulation. The attaché's expression hardened. Idealistic nonsense. Power is the only reality in this universe. Commander, something you would understand if you weren't blinded by outdated notions of honor and duty. Orissa met his gaze directly. If power is all that matters to you, then you've already lost. Because true power comes from trust and cooperation. Something your faction will never understand. The man's face contorted with anger. Enough talk. I'm leaving with the ambassador as my insurance. Anyone who tries to stop me dies along with him. As he began to edge toward the exit, Orissa made her move. You know what I find truly powerful? She asked, taking a deliberate step forward. Stay back, he warned, jabbing his weapon against the ambassador's temple. The most powerful force I've encountered recently, Orissa continued calmly, was a simple, unexpected compliment from someone I respected. The attaché's brow furrowed in confusion. What are you? It made me freeze completely, she admitted, her voice softer now. Just for a moment, the way you're about to. On cue, Kai emerged from behind the pillar. You look amazing today, he said clearly. The attaché instinctively turned his head toward the unexpected voice, the momentary distraction Orissa needed. In one fluid motion, she closed the distance between them, striking the hand holding the weapon with precise force. The ambassador broke free as security personnel swarmed forward, subduing the attaché within seconds. As the would-be assassin was led away, and medical personnel attended to the shaken ambassador, Kai approached Orissa with an impressed expression. Using his own psychological tactics against him. Unconventional, Commander. I'm learning to appreciate unconventional approaches in the right circumstances. Lieutenant, she replied with the hint of a smile. The diplomatic incident was contained with remarkable efficiency. Ambassador Torin, though shaken by his experience, expressed gratitude for the swift intervention that saved his life. The other delegates, witnessing the coalition's commitment to their safety, even against threats from within, found their confidence in the renewed alliance strengthened rather than diminished. Interrogation of the captured attaché revealed the full extent of Admiral Venturi's conspiracy, a network of operatives throughout the coalition fleet dedicated to maintaining central authority through force rather than cooperation. The admiral himself was apprehended at Proxima Station, his private communications revealing plans for a military coup against the civilian government if the diplomatic mission succeeded. In the days that followed, as the Vanguard's Edge continued its repairs and prepared for its next assignment, Orissa found herself reflecting on the events that had unfolded aboard her ship. The crisis had tested her command in unexpected ways, challenging her adherence to protocol and forcing her to embrace more flexible approaches when traditional methods proved inadequate. She was reviewing repair schedules in a quiet corridor when Kai approached, tablet in hand as usual. Lieutenant, she acknowledged. Is that the final security report? Yes, Commander. We've completed the sweep of all systems. No further espionage devices were found. The ship is clean. Orissa accepted the tablet, briefly reviewing its contents. Good work. Your investigation was thorough and effective. Thank you, Commander. He hesitated momentarily. If I may say so, your handling of the hostage situation was impressive. Few commanding officers would have adapted their tactics so quickly. Few officers would have provided such an effective, unexpected phrase to use as a distraction, she countered, the corner of her mouth lifting slightly. Kai smiled in response. It seemed to have a memorable effect the first time. Indeed it did, Arissa handed the tablet back to him, their fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. The question is, Lieutenant, was it merely a tactical distraction? Or was there some truth behind those words? The directness of her question surprised them both. For a moment, the professional distance between commander and subordinate wavered, revealing the human connection that had been developing beneath the surface of their working relationship. In my experience, Commander, Kai replied carefully, the most effective tactical choices often contain elements of truth. Otherwise, they lack the authenticity needed to be convincing. Arissa studied him, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. A diplomatic answer worthy of our recent negotiations. But perhaps not the complete answer you were looking for, Kai acknowledged. They stood in silence for a moment, the unspoken understanding between them growing stronger in the quiet corridor, far from the observation of the crew. Finally, Arissa spoke. I never noticed before how bright your eyes are when you solve a problem, Lieutenant. It's quite remarkable. The compliment, unexpected and genuine, caught Kai by surprise. A smile spread across his features, reaching those very eyes she had just described. Now, who's deploying tactical distractions, Commander? Perhaps I'm learning that some unconventional approaches have merit in the right circumstances, she replied, a rare, genuine smile warming her features. Their moment of connection was interrupted by a call on the ship's communication system. Commander Vol to the bridge. Incoming transmission from Coalition Command. The professional mask slipped back into place as Arissa straightened, though something in her expression remained changed, a new openness that hadn't been there before. Duty calls, Lieutenant. It always does, Commander. As they parted to their respective responsibilities, both carried with them the unspoken promise of a deeper alliance, and perhaps something more, in the missions that lay ahead. The Vanguard's Edge would continue its journey through the stars, facing whatever challenges the universe presented. But its commander had discovered that even the most disciplined leader could benefit from moments of genuine human connection, and that innovation often sprang from the very empathy she had once considered a potential weakness. In her personal log that evening, Arissa made an entry unlike any previous record in her distinguished career. Today, I acknowledge something I've been reluctant to admit, that vulnerability isn't always a liability. Sometimes, it's the key to strength we didn't know we possessed. A simple phrase, "You look amazing today," once made me freeze in confusion. Now, I understand it was because authentic connection is rarer and more powerful than I had allowed myself to believe. Perhaps the true vanguard isn't the ship we command, but the courage to admit that even commanders need moments of genuine human recognition. Meanwhile, in his own quarters, Kai updated his unofficial log with a simple notation. Operation Complement, unexpectedly effective as both tactical maneuver and morale booster. Recommend continued application in appropriate contexts. Note: Commander Vol's response suggests potential for expanded parameters in future interactions. Between them, somewhere in the vastness of space aboard a wounded but healing vessel, a new understanding had formed, one that would shape their future missions in ways neither protocol nor training could have predicted. And as the Vanguard's Edge continued its journey among the stars, that understanding would prove as valuable as any weapon in their arsenal, and as essential as any shield against the dangers that awaited them in the infinite darkness beyond.